So, aquí estamos en Pacoima, en Los Ángeles, y aquí tenemos a Marcos Murillo, coach de Pacoima Boxing Club.
A la edad de 8 años me empezó a gustar el boxeo porque mis papás me llevaban a ver las peleas de peleadores mexicanos en el tiempo de Muhammad Ali, uh, um, este, Rubén Olivares, Bazooka Limón, Zárate. Por eso a la edad de más o menos como 8 años, que me acuerdo, 8 a 9 años, fue la edad que me llevaba mi papá a ver esas peleas que eran cada sábado, cada fin de semana, y por eso me empezó a gustar, la acción del boxeo y cómo era el arte del boxeo. Empecé a enseñar boxeo como en el 85. ¿Por qué? Porque mi hijo vio unas fotografías donde yo boxeaba y todo eso, entonces él quería boxear. Empezó en un programa de la policía que se llamaba Jeopardy. Entonces el policía no tenía mucha experiencia en boxeo, yo sí había boxeado y tenía como diferentes skills que él, porque se me hacía que yo tenía un poquito más de experiencia en boxeo que él. Y mi hijo me empezó a pedir que por qué no le ayudaba, que si yo sabía. Entonces fue que me empecé a involucrar por mi hijo, Damian Murillo. Esa fue la razón que me empecé a involucrar en el boxeo. Además me gusta el boxeo, siempre me ha gustado de corazón. Sí, porque el boxeo te beneficia mucho en disciplina, en estrés, en quitar ese estrés, en no estar pensando en otras cosas, en saber respetar a los demás, porque uno sabe que ya cuando uno, ya sabiendo boxeo, sabe que hay que respetar a las otras personas. A la misma vez, uno se siente más seguro de uno mismo siempre que donde quiera que anda uno. Y también el boxeo te beneficia mucho de mantenerte que no te metas en problemas, puede ser de droga, pensando en droga, alcohol, fumando cigarro, marihuana, lo que sea. Entonces te mantiene ocupado, que no tienes tiempo ni siquiera para hacer esas cosas. No, me gustaría que el boxeo se extendiera a las escuelas, no nomás a las universidades, sino también a las high schools y a las demás, que es un deporte bueno para la juventud, y me gustaría que si pusieran en elemental empezar, sería fabuloso, que sería la edad que es la edad que empiezan amateur, sería como a los 8 a 9 años, que es una edad que ya los niños empiezan a tener más disciplina para seguir las instrucciones del coach y todo eso. Me gustaría que desde ahí empezaran a abrir esos programas en escuelas de elementary, high school. En la universidad ya sería como para cuando van a una olimpiada y todo eso, más preparados, y sería fabuloso. Eso ayudaría mucho a la juventud, especialmente me imagino que Estados Unidos sacaría también muchos más campeones olímpicos, y el boxeo sería más bien. Y sí me gustaría que participaran las escuelas y hubiera competencia de escuelas también, universidades y todo. Sí, yo pienso que sería muy buena idea, y yo apoyaría eso. Bueno, lo primero, darles confianza, la confianza, y empezar a darles como entrenar lo básico, y poco a poco como no subirlos luego sparring ni nada de eso, sino primero enseñarles los skills o las cualidades que tengan, a enseñárselas a desarrollar su potencial que tienen, y ya como a los 6 meses empezarlos a subir poco a poco a sparring, un round, 2 rounds, a 3, depende cómo se vayan mirando, para que sientan esa confianza y vayan empezando a sentir esa confianza del boxeo y todo eso. Yeah. Yeah.
Gracias. So here we have Damian Murillo from Pacoima in Los Angeles. He represents the Pacoima Boxing Gym.
Well, I started with boxing. I was about 8 years old. Had been in trouble at school, so I was fighting a lot. And they kind of put me into a program called Jeopardy, which focuses on at-risk kids with youth. So they told me to choose between kickboxing, boxing, and karate. And so I would go there every day, and I would have to do my homework for about 30 minutes, and then after I would have to work out. And so I chose boxing just because I always was around boxing with my family. We always watched fights. And my first fight was at 8 years old, so I started training about 7 years old, and then first fight at 8 years old. Well, I boxed from 8 years old. It was about 1992, till about 2005. About 2005, I want to say. Boxed as an amateur, did over 130 fights, and professional, I did 3 fights. And turned coach, and I was a fighter the whole time there, and then turned as a coach in 2007. Became a coach and been coaching since 2007. Well, at first, after I had retired from boxing, I wanted nothing to do with boxing because I was so angry that I couldn't do it because physically I had an injury. And my dad started training a bunch of kids. He had pretty good kids and needed help with some of the kids. So he started little by little, and little by little I started, never thought I would be a coach ever in my life. So when I started transitioning to being a coach, it's dealing with the youth, and especially at-risk kids, helping them out with not only boxing but their personal problems, coming to me. And since I was so young and I'm kind of closer to their age than my dad, they would come and talk to me about all the problems. So that really, when I started seeing that I can help some of these kids, because I've been where they've been and I've been walking in their shoes, and I had trouble in my youth and all that. That's when I said, okay, this is for me to help these kids out, and get them to a journey where they can focus about the journey and not the result. So that's how I started. It de-stresses you out. It's something that any frustrations you have built up in your life, and all the problems that you have going on, you just tire yourself out basically punching away your problems. It's just another way of just letting all your frustrations out physically into a bag, and learning not just punching, just it's more technique and how to breathe when you punch, and how to put your fist and what to punch with, and just learning about how to get to the next step every time is I think what a lot of people focus their energy on. I think for me it was a big discipline. Uh, it taught me discipline. Most importantly of all is all the worth ethic. So as much as I put into my workout, I saw that result in my fight. So I always take that with me. Is how important it is, and how to work hard everybody says it and it's such a cliche to work hard, but when you actually go through it and go through, mentally what you went through to accomplish and get to that, goal, whether it's running from 3 miles and working up your way up all the way to 10 miles, it's an accomplishment that, you know, the important part of that is the journey that, sets you to the result. So, you thinking, I think what helped me the most is definitely is dedication and being motivated to get to that next step and next level. Definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm a result as a, started at 7 years old, and I definitely know it's possible because I have a class of that I teach that's 5-year-old to 7-year-olds. That's my toddler class, and I teach fundamentals of, moving around, moving your head, punching a little bit, push-ups, sit-ups. And if my 5-year-olds can do it, I know definitely, everybody can do it. So it's awesome now, for the last year being able to follow that program and see the development of these kids. It was about a year, working with them, almost a year, and I've seen their progress, and it's amazing how the human body can learn, all these techniques at such a young age. Well, a good routine is just the most important part would be something like shadow boxing, getting in front of a mirror and getting used to, actually letting your hands go, a certain way and seeing how they punch and how, not to make certain mistakes. And, it's learning more the technique and seeing yourself do these, these moves and punches that you've never had to, do before. And and there's a lot of videos, there's videos on YouTube, there's fights that you can see and emulate and copy the types of punches and types of moves that they do, and just practicing them over and over like any other thing. But little things like that, shadow boxing I think is probably one of the more important things. But when it comes to competing, the most important things can be running and sparring, so that you have your timing and you have your conditioning, and all that. So I think, when you're starting off, it's just shadow boxing. I think is probably one of the most important things, so you get down the movements, that you have to do physically. I think when you're learning, it's a good timing is, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, and in between, something to that extent is, I think, a good time to learn fundamentals, and when jumping rope and moving your head and hitting the bag, and later on as you get experience sparring, little things like that. But anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, I think is a good time. Oh, I definitely think competing is a great option. And the reason I say it is because if I never got into boxing, I never would have traveled and met the people that I've met. I went anywhere from Cuba to France, almost every state, New York, Florida, So, as a kid, I started traveling, and I never thought that I would see some of the places and meet some of the people I've met, if it wasn't for boxing. Boxing, I think, definitely opened my mind to different areas, how people grow up differently, different routines that they have at home, the way they do things in boxing, that because in boxing we all collaborate, and sometimes as coaches you ask coaches, hey, what do you do things different, or you might have friends, but the most important thing is you develop these friendships in all these different gyms, and oh, I fought you, and you guys meet each other 20 years later. Oh, you remember when we fought? And it's an amazing thing that creates friendships, lasting friendships that I've had for the last 20, 30 years because of boxing. So and you know, and traveling to all these different cities and states, and you know, boxing each other is something that you know, take for the rest of your life, that you will never forget. You know, these competitions, being in the ring one on one with, you know, with an individual, and sharing that ring, and it's something that you never forget for the rest of your life. I think just like you know, just like a lot of, you know, accomplishments that women have accomplished, I think they got to fight their way into these gyms, and I wish that there was more women that can, you know, take up boxing and see the advantages, that it's not just a guy sport anymore. Now it's a everybody sport. And just like, you know, they fought their way through all this adverse action that they've experienced, I think it's the same thing with boxing, is fight your way into these gyms. You know, tell their school or tell the coaches, hey, I want to box. I'm not here to just, you know, be another aerobics. I want to compete. I want to, you know, do this or do that. You know, let your voice be heard about that. With anything, whether it's in writing, phone, social media, and everything. But you know, I think more women should be active in boxing and should compete in boxing. I mean, as I don't know if you guys seen, but you know, Aurelia used to box, and she can handle herself. So, you know, I think just like whether you're a student, not a student, I think boxing is a sport that doesn't lie. What I mean by that is, if you work out, if you don't work out, it shows. If you don't put in the work to every day, hey, let me shadow box every day, I gotta do this every day, you know, it shows, you know, when you compete. So as much as you put into it physically and mentally is what you're gonna get back. And so I think that's the most important thing, that it's boxing is not easy. It's a, you know, calculated sport, that is chess, that, you know, there's moves to be made and you got to think outside the box. You know, it's not just throwing your hands and not, you know, see where they land. And that teaches you something that you take for the rest of your life. You know, it teaches you, you know, discipline, humbleness. You know, when you think you're that big, you know, you get humbled down by somebody that knows more than you. And you know, I think it's a sport that doesn't lie, and it's always gonna tell the truth and how much work you put into, which, you know, translate to you taking that hard work and putting it into work and school and taking it for the rest of your life.
And that's all. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Here we have Brody Ledo from Silmar in Los Angeles.
I'm 13 and I'm a freshman. I play basketball in my free time, and every now I play video games. I started when I was 8 years old, and I was watching Rocky, and my dad came home, and I started at Cornell Boxing. No. Consistency. Always running, and when I started, I did Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and now I do Monday through Friday, maybe Saturday. So the consistency really helps. Uh, just you know, relax, be in my own space. Maybe music. Music helps out a lot. Before quarantine, I started Monday through Friday, and quarantine I do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and every now and then I train on my own like Saturday and Friday. Um, One obstacle was being nervous, really nervous. Yeah, nervous really got me down. nervous when I started thinking about the fight, when I started like envisioning me fighting him. And I calmed down by just staying with me, focusing on what I need to do, instead of focusing about the fight and who he is. I have class from 5 to 7, and after school I get off at like 2:10, so I have like an hour and a half to do my homework. Then I go to train, and then after I do some homework, and I keep up with that. I've had a big debate with that. For me, it's always been boxing, and other people, they want me to focus on school, so I have to balance it out.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. My dad, he's helped me out a lot through toughs and highs. No. It would be harder if he did stop supporting, but I'll never stop. A couple of times. Sammy Contreras and Steven Navarro, he's been nervous a couple times for me sparring them because they're older, they got more power experience, but they help me out a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see myself.
Yeah.
I've always liked the idea of competing like with schools, like wrestling, but I'd rather stick with a boxing club.
Thank you.
Thank
Here we have Brody's dad, Roy Ledo, from Silmar, Los Angeles.
I've never boxed before, no. I would say my dad used to always watch boxing as I was growing up, but I was never really into it. And then I got into it pretty much when my son Brody got into it, which is about 5 years ago, when he was 8. And then that's when I started getting into it. I loved it. I thought it was a great deal, and I didn't think much would come of it, but he has a lot of talent and a bright future in boxing for sure. I think there's risk in everything. There's risk walking across the street. There's risk with a lot of stuff. I'd like to support him in anything that he chooses to do. I guess a lot of thought. I mean, I get a little worried. I want him to win. I want him to be happy. I'm nervous. I don't know, a lot of things. Basically, just kind of nervous, hoping everything works out right. Not doubts in him, his ability. No doubts at all in his ability, but just maybe wondered if it was the right thing to do. Always a thought. I think it would be nice for him to compete with others myself. Yes.
Thank you.
Ooh.